Welcome aboard, the only Amtrak service with no direct connection or shared track with any other Amtrak train. And that's the least unique thing about it. Today on Classy Whale, my sister and I are riding the Downeaster from Boston to Maine to discover just what makes this corridor feel so unique compared to the rest of the Amtrak system. But why is our train going backwards? Why is this hot dog bright red? And does the train to Maine run mainly on the plane? The only way to find out is to go for a ride. Most Amtrak services in Boston depart South Station, but the Downeaster is the only one to use the nearby North Station. Despite the two facilities being a little over a mile apart, there is no direct track connection between them through downtown Boston. Situated underneath the famous TD Garden Arena, North Station sees service on 4 MBTA commuter rail lines, as well as 5 daily round trips on the Amtrak Downeaster, which travels 145 miles from here to Brunswick, Maine. The whole journey end to end is scheduled to take 3 hours and 20 minutes, about an hour slower than driving. But if the crowds on our train are any indicator, a lot of people are more than okay with that. And I'm joined here in North Station by my sister, Susanna.
Hello, welcome to my channel, Knitting Over the Downeaster.
We walk out through the automatic doors onto the platform to board our train. On the south end we find Unit 145, painted to honor Amtrak's 40th anniversary. This is followed by a combined cafe business class car, and a set of Amfleet coaches. Alright, we're on board. This is an Amfleet 1, so the legroom isn't quite as good as on the Mardi Gras a couple weeks back, but still very, very comfy. We take off to the north, crossing the Charles River and passing Boston sand and gravel. Then we head up the MBTA commuter rail's Lowell line, passing several stops, before reaching Anderson-Woburn, our first stop. From here, we turn down the Wildcat branch, which allows us to cut over to the Haverhill line, which we follow north, passing a CSX yard and the abandoned Lawrence Station, before arriving in the city of Haverhill, our last stop in Massachusetts. On the platform, next to the MBTA commuter rail signage, you can find the stylistic route map, highlighting where we are in relation to other Downeaster stations, something I've never noticed on any other Amtrak service. Leaving MBTA commuter rail territory and moving on to CSX trackage, we cross the border into New Hampshire. And with that, we have entered New Hampshire, which is a new state for Susanna.
Yay! We're up to like 2026?
You know what you do in New Hampshire?
What do you do in New Hampshire?
You live free. Or die. The scenery here becomes much more rural as we speed north. The Downeaster can top out at 79 miles per hour, similar to most Amtrak services, and has an overall operating speed of 44 miles per hour. Exeter is our first New Hampshire stop. Then the train continues north to Durham, home to the University of New Hampshire. However, the state of New Hampshire does not subsidize the Downeaster's operation. Instead, the train is funded between the federal government, the state of Maine, and ticket sales. Now it's time for a bathroom review. Now it's time for a bathroom review. Take 2.
New Hampshire will be next, just a few more minutes to Dover.
Next up is Dover. Again, a newly built station, with bus connections to the coastal town of Portsmouth. Long ago, the Boston and Maine Railroad used to run trains along this route, but service to Portland ended in 1965, and Dover service was cut back to Haverhill in 1967. So we just crossed the Salmon Falls River, and now we are in Maine.
We do not remain in New Hampshire anymore.
We are going to stay near the coast, because the train in Maine runs mainly on the plain.
Makes sense.
The Downeaster's cafe car is operated by Nextstein Hospitality, and features a completely separate menu from Amtrak's other services in the Northeast, including many local Maine products.
So this is a Maine potato donut, maple glazed. It's pretty dense, but it's quite good.
And I have something called a red hot dog. As you can see, it is a hot dog the color of a Baby Bell cheese. I'm not entirely sure what it's made of. I'm not sure. I want to know. But I did get, the usual condiments. It's also very small. I paid $4 for this, by the way. This is the size of a Snickers bar. Is it weird to say it tastes how it looks? I'm not sure. I should have put that in my body. We cross the Saco River and arrive in Saco, Maine. The next stop is a seasonal one, serving Old Orchard Beach, a Maine beach that feels like a chunk of the Jersey Shore washed up in New England. Crossing the Scarborough Marsh, we reach another CSX yard, where we can see equipment from the line's last owner, Pan Am Railways. Yes, they bought the airline's trademarks after the latter went belly up. Entering the city of Portland, the largest city in Maine and the namesake of the largest city in Oregon, we peel off the main line towards the Downeaster's original terminus, the Portland Transportation Center. Continuing on our way, we reverse out of the Transportation Center, with the conductor in the southbound locomotive giving directions to the engineer driving the northbound. Once we're in position, we head forwards again, passing a southbound train. This features a cabbage car, combined cab and baggage car, built out of an old F40PH and painted in the distinctive livery for the Downeaster service. This is definitely the most iconic piece of equipment on the service. Maine wasn't included in the initial Amtrak route network, and for a long time, its only intercity service was from Via Rail, whose Atlantic between Halifax and Montreal passed through the state until 1994. But the lack of rail from Maine to Boston didn't sit well with certain Maine residents, who founded Train Riders Northeast in 1989 with the goal of bringing passenger rail service back to New England's northernmost state. 2 years later, they helped get the Passenger Rail Service Act, Maine's first citizen-initiated act based on over 56,000 signatures, signed into law by Governor John McKernan, which directed the state's Department of Transportation to, quote, take all actions that are reasonably necessary to initiate, establish, or reinstate regularly scheduled passenger rail service between points within and outside of this state. With a combination of state and federal funding, work was undertaken to get the Downeaster up and running over the next decade, with the first train running on December 15, 2001. Today, the service is operated by Amtrak and overseen by the Northern New England Passenger Rail Authority, a Maine state agency whose creation was overseen in part by Train Riders Northeast. This agency in turn oversaw the extension of service to Brunswick in 2012, where we're getting off now. We walk out into the town's charming if a little strody downtown. Home to 21,000 souls, and conveniently close to the coast, this town was once the terminus of Maine Eastern tourist trains, which ran to the popular tourist destination of Rockland, until service ended in 2015. Various proposals for passenger rail on this corridor were made since then, including a test run of the Downeaster to Rockland in 2019, and limited excursions on a Bud RDC car in 2023. In 2025, freight carrier Cumberland and Knox took over the Rockland line, indicating that they might be interested in starting passenger service as well. And in October, Trains magazine reported that 2 passenger cars had arrived in Rockland for potential excursion service. The Brunswick station has all kinds of tourist information, including a board listing all sorts of fun events going on in town. We're taking business class for our next leg. Our seats are big and comfy, laid out in a 2-1 configuration with plenty of legroom. I will say the seats are a little bit worse for the wear. I feel like they've been in use for a while, and they definitely look worn down. But as a perk, I got a free drink. We enjoy a relaxing cruise down to Portland, where we reverse direction back into the station. Once the train is gone, we head up into the Portland Transportation Center, whose quick track machines are built into larger branded displays for the Downeaster. It's truly one of the most uniquely branded services on the Amtrak network, with a distinctive logo and livery, a rampant social media presence, and car-free travel packages offered on their website, along with lots of recommendations for things to do along the line. Unfortunately, we're pretty far from downtown, but we are within walking distance of the International Cryptozoology Museum, which is educational. By the time we're out, it's raining, so we catch a metro bus towards downtown, complete with a very well-designed fare scanner.
Crossing in front of the bus is dangerous, as passing traffic cannot see you.
Hey, I actually included that information in one of my videos I made for SEPTA, which you can find at septa.org/accessibility. So it's very cool they actually have that in the onboard announcements. Little pig, let me come in. Oh wait, they don't have indoor seating. If you ever ride the Downeaster, absolutely come to Little Pig and get the Tom Kha Gai soup. It will change your life. Best restaurant meal I had in 2025, hands down. Then we walk further into downtown Portland, which has a population of 68,000, slightly larger than my birth city of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
That's what you're doing right now.
We walk around down by the water, since this is a port land after all, then take a bus back to our train, which arrives to take us back to Boston. So that was the Downeaster. It exists because locals made it happen. It chooses to stand out with colorful, inviting branding. It creates a safe and comfortable alternative to driving, not to mention parking in Boston if you're coming from the north. And it brings in tourism dollars from out of state. This is, by all accounts, an American passenger rail success story, and other potential projects should take notes. So, since the internet had no conclusive proof as to why Maine hot dogs are red, I've actually found the contact of a woman named Lexi, who's a customer service rep at a red hot dog company, so I'm gonna call her up here. Oh, you're having trouble hearing me? Oh, that's alright. I'm on the Downeaster, Alexa. I'll see myself out.